young teenage females using birth control. I was aware that birth control was a problem. I mean, look, I'm just going to call it what it is. These disturbing facts and risks of taking birth control. This information would effectively drastically reduce the margins that big pharma makes. This part I didn't know, and it kind of makes a little bit of sense. It actually shrinks the... I wanted to talk a little bit about birth control, specifically with females, and, you know, getting a little more specific, the instances of young teenage females using birth control and, you know, why it's problematic. And I want to say first that I've dated a couple girls that were on birth control. And when I say dated, I didn't mean like go on one date. I mean periods of time. And I was aware that birth control was a problem. So, you know, some of these girls were, or the two that I'm thinking of, were in their like mid-20s. So I realized that I had to be very tactical with the approach, because when you share information with, it can be a lot. But because I cared about them, I wanted to make sure they were informed. And, you know, the good part is, you know, in the position that I'm in, I tend to have influence over whether the girls that I date or the people in my network. I have influence over you to a certain degree with certain areas. Sure. That's kind of the whole point of having a network of killers, right? You guys all support each other and bring value where you can. But I wanted to share some, I mean, look, I'm just going to call it what it is. These disturbing facts and risks of taking birth control. So number one, taking birth control skyrockets depression and the risk of suicide. There's a massive Danish study with over 1 million women that this is between women 15 to 19, and 1 million. That's a lot. And notice it was Danish. These aren't studies that are going to be done here in America, not in the West. Okay, that's important to point out, because this information, I mean, this information would effectively drastically reduce the margins that big pharma makes by getting young girls on birth control that early. But in that study, 15 to 19 years old, 80% were more likely to develop depression within 1 calendar year of starting birth control. They were more than twice as likely to attempt suicide compared to non-users. Taking birth control can reduce or kill sex drive permanently via the disruption of, obviously, the body's natural hormone production. And this part I didn't know. It was interesting, and it kind of makes a little bit of sense. It actually shrinks the brain over time. The hypothalamus, I believe, which is the part of the brain responsible for regulating mood, motivation, sex drive, sleep.
Probably the single most part of the brain, most important part of the brain.
Right, and with that, also downstream of that fact is unwanted weight gain.
100%. I mean, so one thing everything you say is 100% factual. Again, this is part of how the pharmaceutical company will. One of probably the best things that happened, when I was going through my residency, it was very common for pharmaceutical companies. Every day they were in the hospitals. They sponsored lunches every day. We had dinners every day. I mean, and back then we're just young and dumb in a sense. I mean, you have to imagine in 2000 when I was doing residency, that's 25 years ago. I mean, I was 25.
You were in school respecting the hierarchy.
Yeah, and it's like, but what would happen was it was very common that the pharmaceutical rep would come and be like, "Hey, doc, my credit card is at River City Brewing House. You take all the residents out, everything's on the house with us."
Like,
right?
Yeah, thank you.
And like when you're 25 years old and someone says that, I would take 20 people there. That was just a thing.
Yeah.
Every Friday night dinner at Roots Chris, they're giving a talk, they're giving some new research, and you're like, this is research, right? Now when you look back at it, you're like, this was just marketing. This was advertising at the grassroots level to the young doctors that were going to finish residency in a few years, and they were going to now distill that throughout the community.
Yeah.
But like from birth control, they came out because they wanted to make sure that how do we sell this to doctors? How do we sell this to teenagers? How do we sell this to moms? And what do they say? If you take birth controls, it helps reduce your acne.
Yep.
Remember this?
Yes, of course.
It does nothing for your acne.
What was the I guess the correlation that they postured to?
Very easy. Because the reason you get acne is because you're going through your teenage years and you're getting spikes of hormones. Right. This regulates your hormone. Except all it's doing is just beating your hormone down. You're getting basically estrogen that is synthetic, progesterone that's synthetic. It is not bioidentical. It is man-made. And every one of the side effects you mentioned, lack of libido, weight gain, mood changes, all of that is 100% factual and related to birth control.
This
pills.
final one here I
It's
thought
scary.
was extremely interesting. Disturbing, probably the better word, while simultaneously being fascinating. So it rewires the brain's neurochemistry, which, again, directly tied into the fact that it changes the brain, shrinks the brain. But specifically, the rewiring that takes place can alter who you're attracted to. So early exposure may lock in mood instability, blunt natural emotional resilience, and even affect partner selection later in life by blunting a woman's natural ability to detect genetic compatibility.
That's why all these women are dating losers.
That's exactly what I thought. I'm like, that actually makes a degree of sense.
But again, when you want to get really down the rabbit hole, this goes down part of breaking down the fabric of society.
Yeah. Well, look, we're putting the information out there and we're allowing people to make the decision, not by what we say, but perhaps this inspires you to do a little bit of your own research.